One of the most instructive portions of this study for us as the research team, and especially me as the lead researcher, was we started out with one intent. We looked at a group of students that played Kriegspiel and then noticed that anecdotally they seemed better at wargaming. They were more effective at visualizing. They seemed to anticipate threats and opportunities better. And I mentioned this to the historian that was helping me out with this, because, I mean, Kriegspiel is an early 1800s game. And we speculated, gee, is there a way to study this and see if there's a connection between playing a simple board game and doing a better job on the war game? But see, that started out as a process-driven thing, the war game itself. But as we studied this concept, we began to make this discovery that it wasn't so much the process itself called wargaming, but the visualization ability to see what may not apparently be there, right? So is there a threat, but you don't see the exact clues of it right away? And maybe it's even something that you might even be subconsciously aware of. So military planners are often defeated by their process, because all they do sometimes is become slaves to it, instead of having the discovery that there's a threat there, there's an opportunity there that I hadn't anticipated, and now it's there because I stress tested my plan and I've become aware of it.
If you think about critical cognitive skills that we're trying to help educate and prepare our officers for, it's to make decisions in complex situations where it's not always clear what has to be done. And so if you compare this to the cooking versus following a recipe, I can follow a recipe all day long, but I'm not really a cook until I've understood how the tastes and the ingredients and the methods all fit together to come up with an end state where those all mix together in a pleasing way. And so one of the advantages of our primate brain is the ability to set our vision into the future. Like, we have a sense of time that animals don't have. We can imagine other states and what it might be like. And that ability to visualize and to have a temporal perspective and to have empathy for other people allows us to take critical perspectives, to imagine what other people will feel, to run scenarios, and then use that as a way to evaluate courses of action. That and opposable thumbs gives us a real powerful evolutionary advantage. And so there's some underlying cognitive skill of visualizing, anticipating, imagining that wargaming, the process, gets us to, but it's what you've, I think, uncovered is there's this underlying cognitive skill that is involved with complex decision making that's really being exercised. And the war game allows us a simplified, free, low-cost, not risky way to exercise those muscles. And so what I think you'll find is that folks who are participating in wargaming are going to do better when it comes to other manipulations of concepts or putting together different ideas, because there's some kind of fundamental skill being exercised. And our argument is that the professions feature exactly those kinds of complex decision making, not just the military, but doctors when they're taking a medical history and they're trying to sort out what the problem might be, is they're taking a couple of facts and reasoning forward in time to see if that future state is explained by the evidence that they've gathered so far. It helps them pick a path through uncertainty. And so this experiment with experiential learning and wargaming connects at a deep level across many different professional practices. And that's why I think the way you guys have structured this experiment is a model for how professions, not just the military, might be able to do the same thing. And that is determine how can I use experiential learning and gaming to uncover critical cognitive skills, not just because I like to play war games, but because that's a proven way of getting positive effects in the classroom given limited amounts of time.
Sure.
We don't want to ask a barber if we need a haircut. You don't want to ask a war gamer if we should teach by using war games, because those guys are always going to say yes because they enjoy it. But if you're in charge of curriculum and you're making programmatic decisions, you have to make choices on the basis of what works in the classroom. And so what you guys have done is established a process that will allow any profession to study their educational practices and determine if there's an actual benefit from the particular method of whether gaming or simulations or experiential learning, and we can make sound decisions about how to train in the professions.
And I think that's the key point, because one of the key things that we're trying to do here is train our staffs so that they can come up with systems that will enable decision making for commanders. And if you really think about it, what we're really truly doing here is we're training future commanders, because the ability to sit down and visualize, whether it's rudimentarily through the war game, through the planning and preparation process, eventually that commander is going to have to sit down and be able to see the operation in his mind's eye. And we tell our commanders to do this. Go find some place quiet, grab a cup of coffee, the map, and sit down and walk through the operation in your own mind and envision these things that you see. And if you can do that, you will be surprised less, as opposed to more often when the uncertainty creeps up.
You know, we're trying to educate our staff to think like the commander so that we can anticipate his comments or his perspectives so that we can give him better information to make decisions with. So we're really asking them to use the war game not only to see what they think about the outcome and the interplay of forces, but also to think like the commander, to visualize in the way he thinks, so that we can give him news that he can use. And so this process of visualization is very strongly reliant on critical thinking and creativity and multiple perspectives, and it brings together a whole team with diverse backgrounds and asks them to collaborate in a powerful way. And so wargaming gets all of those juices flowing. You have not just individuals, but you have groups of individuals and teams and multiple perspectives all swirling together, and we're trying to make sense out of what the future might hold. So wargaming, the recipe, is only the beginning of what's really possible when you start teaching people how to cook or how to visualize. It's not just tactics, it also is strategy, it's negotiations, it's anything that requires an understanding of other points of view and events in the future. So a very powerful start to the program, and we're going to continue to develop these ideas as we go forward. We'll show you how that we have applied that in our military college for our profession, and some of the strong connections we see for members of other professions. So thanks very much for your kind attention, and please feel free to send comments, questions, and interest to Ken Long at the email that is provided below. So thanks to Rich and Jake for getting us well started, and more to follow. So thanks for your kind attention.
So if we can find a way to